What's up? This is Patrick of Radicards.com, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about my top 10 Frank Thomas pickups of 2022. I hope you like it. Now, if you've been watching my videos over the years, you know I started doing these in 2016, and the format is like, I talk about 3 honorable mentions and then dive right into the top 10 list. Well, this year I'm going to introduce that block of content with my favorite Frank Thomas pickup that came out in 2022. Okay, so let's jump right into it here. This is the 2022 select numbers gold to 10 Frank Thomas. So this is a great card. It's interesting because in 1998, before Pinnacle went under, they had produced a set with the same title that was slated to be released and it never was. And so it had a similar design to it. So this is very reminiscent of that set from 24 years ago. Really cool stuff, unreleased stuff for Pinnacle. So it's bankruptcy, really hard to find, whatever. But I was glad to get this. Every year I do some little amount of Frank Thomas cards, post-career stuff. But in 2018, I was like, I'm done. I can't do any of this anymore. It's too much. It's exhausting. And so I'll cherry pick a few things now. My 2022 block is really thinned out. There's not a lot there, but there's this, and there's the parallels of this or whatever, and some other stuff. But really happy to get this into the collection. Such a cool card. I think Panini does a great job. People give Panini kind of a lot of flack for not having the team names or team logos. It doesn't really bother me that much. I can understand why people's frustrated. It kind of looks like a custom card, but I always tell people, if you think it's bad, think about how Panini feels that they can't use that stuff. But I think Panini does a great job with their products, and I hope that it continues for years to come. So I was really glad to get this. This is the 2022 select numbers gold, number to 10. All right, let's talk about the honorable mentions now. This is the 3 cards that didn't make the main list. They're pretty cool. They're just not cool enough to make the top 10 list for 2022. So let's dive right in here. So the first one here is a 1996 Finest Refractor BGS 95. This is the gold subset card number 186. This is peeled. So someone peeled it and they had it sent in and it came back all 9.5 subs. I was like, sweet. I'll try to get that. I've always liked this card. In 1996, these were really hard to get. They were fantastically valuable back then. I think this card was worth $1,000 in 96. It's a huge card, raw, right? And so time has passed and people are on other things. Frank Thomas retired. But a lot of us 90s guys appreciate stuff like this even now. The design's fantastic. The player roster is incredible. They're hard to pull. I don't think I've ever opened a single pack of 96 Finest. I mean, there's certain packs of product I've never opened. Probably never will. I just, certain cards I just will keep track of. But this isn't my first example of this card. I have a few raw ones, and I have this PSA 10 that I got a couple years prior before the big COVID spike. So I got this card for much, much less than it sells for now. Now, the PSA 10 has the peel intact, but the scan of the PSA 10 really pops off. It's because the film is still there. You have a textured appearance to the card, which I still think looks amazing. The textured appearance is fantastic. But I'm going to put these side by side so you can kind of see how they scan. One's got the film, one doesn't have the film. They scan beautifully either way. They're just awesome cards. One's a BGS 9.5, one's PSA 10. I prefer to keep the coating intact. I would never peel a card. Those Finest Mysteries with the black fronts. I just leave them on there. I just think it's cool that they're still intact. I like factory though. I just like things at factory intact. I don't like to tamper with things and peel, and I'm not into that. If it's okay if you are, I just don't do it myself. It's fine. But this is one of those cards that I kind of wanted both ways, so I can represent how the card appears both ways. And I just love this card. It's a great image of Frank Thomas. It's just an awesome set. It's probably one of my favorites from the 96 block. There are a lot. 96 is a favorite year for me. There's so many great sets. 95's got just a ton of great sets. 94. I think to me, 94, 95, and 96 are arguably the best years to collect in baseball cards. That's my own personal preference, my own opinion. I'm not saying this for everybody. Some people are like, oh, no, 98, 99, you got the PMGs and whatever, Crusades and all that. Yeah, those are awesome years too. They're also incredibly expensive. But These are, I think 96 is an awesome year. It's got tons of great products, lots of awesome sets. The Mirror Golds, Select Certified, obviously, are big ones. But you got all these other cool ones too. And Finest did a great job. This was Finest in '96. It was the first time they produced a run of different subsets to make up the whole main set. The different designs and stuff. They did this again in '97. In '98 they tabled it. I don't know why, but in '98 they just stopped doing that. In '99, Bowman's Best kind of did some of that. And Finest did that a lot in '99. So this concept of having a bunch of different subset designs throughout the entire base set has been done across a lot of the Topps products in the '90s block. But it kind of really sort of started in '96 with Finest. And so I was really happy to get these cards. I just think this card is so beautiful, honestly. The Intimidators Gold Refractors, they're so awesome. And it's reserved for like the cream of the crop players in the '96 Finest set. And then some of these guys have different cards. Like Frank Thomas is represented a few times in the set. And other players too have there's like a silver and a bronze. And so Frank Thomas has 2 bronze cards in this gold. But other players are like in the silver run and they're like in the gold run. And so just kind of a cool variety. If you collect a player from '96 Finest, you have a good chance. You have a few interesting cards to chase. And hopefully they don't break the bank too much. So anyway, I'm talking your ear off here. This is the 1996 Finest Refractor, card number 186, Frank Thomas, and the BGS 9.5 compared to the PSA 10 of the same card. All right, moving on here. This is 2004 Prime Cut Century Gold to 10. Okay, so I watched this card on eBay for a long time, and it was just way overpriced. Way overpriced. I'm like, when's the likelihood I'm going to see this card again? Like, I'm going to have to just bite my tongue on this and just get this dang card. I don't like doing that because it gives sellers incentives to overprice things. I don't appreciate that at all. Just put it on auction style and let it run. Obviously, you might not get the same price, but let the market dictate the price. No sense in like gouging people. So I just felt kind of gouged. I mean, granted, it was my decision to pay for the card, so whatever. I'm not going to hold it against the seller. I made the decision to hand over the money. But I learned later that the seller of this card had bought it on CMC for like $10 and then like turned it around for like some just unbelievable price tag. It just sat there. And so I was just like, okay, well, let's see if I can get this card. And so I got it. The reason why I didn't make the top 10 list is because of this story. Like, I'm not proud that I overpaid for this card. Granted, I don't know if I'll see one of the other 9 examples of this card, so it's not a huge loss. I'm happy to have it. It's a welcome into my collection. I'm super happy to have this card. And I understand I'm a big fan of capitalism, so I don't hold anything against a seller. I can get it. I got to make money. You can make a little more, listing it, relisting it. I'm all for it. I get it. It's fine. Not bashing on the seller here. I think it was a little high. Sometimes you got to take one for the team and just dive in. And so this was one of those situations where like, okay, get it. I'm just going to have to get this card and just accept it by the tongue. I was not speedy enough on CMC to see it. My loss, his gain. I accept that. I'm moving on. So this card's great. 2004, man, I don't think there has been any, that's a statement I'm going to make is going to be negated by the current market, right? So here's this thing. 2004, there was a glutton of products in 2004. I mean, just so many products. I think for Frank Thomas, and I can't say this now because I don't track post-career stuff anymore, but because 2004 is a playing year for Frank Thomas, my checklist, the block for 04 is bigger than any other year with all the mega parallel sets with Diamond Kings and everything else. It's a huge thing. It's just a big block of cards. Tons and tons and tons of cards. There's like, what's the big one in there? It's like Leaf. I think it was Leaf Exhibits 2004 or was it 05? I know Studio Portraits was 05. That was a big run of cards. But there are like some big mega parallel sets in 04 and even more in 05. But 04 is such a huge block of cards. And so it's a really exhausting run. And even like this Prime Cuts thing, there's a bunch of parallels of this card. Nowhere near like 2005 Diamond Kings, which is just exhausting. Like every player has like 100 different parallels, even more across the different insert sets and things. But I have a lot to say about this card, apparently. Thank you for listening. Anywho, I feel like I overpaid for this card by a little bit. For if it like ran at auction, I don't think it would bring the same money I paid for this card, but I'm not going to like be too upset about it. I'm glad I have it, and I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to get it in the collection. Sometimes I'm not fast enough, and other people take advantage of that, and good for them. Like, I'm happy for them. I'm happy for the seller for getting what he got from me for this card, even though I think I paid a little bit high for it. But whatever, that's neither here nor there. This is the 2004 Prime Cuts Century Gold to 10 Frank Thomas. Oh man, this card, geez, gosh. So, where do I even start? I'd wanted this card for so freaking long, like long time. Probably pushing like 19 years. Like when I got back in the hobby in 2003, after like a 5-year-ish hiatus from like college and just, parts of my life I just wanted to tackle. I wanted this card. So I built this checklist in 2003. I was wanted to really tackle Frank Thomas stuff even more aggressively than I had the years prior. And so I made this checklist, and this card eluded me for just forever, because this is one of those Upper Deck authenticated kind of like issues where it comes with this big massive lucite case that comes with an unautographed pack issued version and then the autographed version next to it, and it's screwed down. It comes in this box of this like paper wrap. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff I don't want. I have to store all that. I don't want to store all that stuff. Just give me the dang card by itself. Hard to find the card as a unique standalone, which is hard. I've seen the sets all these years. I didn't want to pay at $200 or whatever for the. I just didn't want it. I just didn't want it. I was like, eventually, I'm confident I'm going to come across this card as a standalone. At some point, I'll do it. And this year at one of the Dallas card shows, this guy had this in his showcase. I was like, dude, how much? I think he wanted a certain price, and then I countered and he took it, at least from what I can remember. Whatever the case, he was already in the range that I already would have paid. But I always try to do due diligence as a formality to try to like, shave off a few when I can, because like I may appreciate capitalism, but I also like negotiations. And so this is one of those cards where I was so happy to get this. I was so happy to get this finally. No giant lucite case, no box I have to store with like paper in it. Just get the card. Just give me the card. So this is the 1992 Upper Deck Home Run Heroes autograph, number to 300. It's a surprisingly rare card. I just don't see these cards that often. I see there's like other Upper Deck authenticated Frank Thomas autos from early Upper Deck releases, and I have all those. But like serial numbers like between 300 and 1,000 across the 92 and 93 blocks. They're cool. I like them. I like all of them. But I always find these at like obscure places. Like I found one at a card shop. Found this one at a card show. I got one of the other ones on eBay. I think the other ones came on eBay over the years, but super glad to finally knock this card off because it was just eluded me for so freaking long. And it was the last one of the UD authenticated examples that I needed in the collection. So there you have it. This is the 1992 Upper Deck Home Run Heroes auto, number to 300. All right, you made it. We are now jumping into the top 10 list of 2022. These are the best cards for Frank Thomas I've found and acquired in 2022. I'm super happy about this list. It's a tough one. Like putting these 10 cards together is difficult to do. Let's jump right into it here. We're going to start this list off with I talk about post-career. This is a post-career card. 2019 Topps Franchise Feats autographs, number to 10. Okay, so normally I wouldn't put in some random post-career card into a list. I mean, I've done it before. Like I think I did it last year with like a Bowman National Red something, whatever, to 5, or was the year prior. One of the last previous years I did that. I think it was last year. The reason why I'm adding this one is because the insertion ratios on these franchise feats are just unbelievable. I mean, the base card is whatever. It's a nothing card, but like all the parallels, all of them have insane insertion ratios, and it just gets worse and worse, like exponentially from parallel to parallel. It's drastic. It's so drastic. So like this one was these autographs, the franchise free autographs, number to 10, 1 in 27,388 blaster packs. Now just think about that for a second. What's the cost of a blaster pack? $10? Okay, so put a 0 at the end of 27,388. You have $273,880 you'll be spending. That's not accounting for tax, your storage fee, your time required to open all these packs. I mean, it's just like an unbelievable amount of packs you have to open to pull one of these. That is the reason why this card introduces the top 10 list for 2022. It's a massively difficult card to get. And yet, the price paid for this card, less than $100. Like, it's crazy when I think about something. I think really that certain people in the hobby, I think we as collectors, a lot of us don't really appreciate some of the insertion ratios on some of the modern whatever cards that come out of base tops. But it's that stuff that comes out of base tops, because Topps flagship is like a cheap, it's the lower end Topps, not chrome, it's not sapphire, it's not whatever, 5-star or whatever, not triple threads. It's just base Topps. The packs are like $3.99 at Target. So like pulling something like this out of those packs, the insertion ratios have to be difficult because the price point is so low. So I think that few people have an appreciation for these things. They're so unbelievable that you just have to stand in awe of how difficult something like this particular card is to pull. And I started picking up on franchise feats earlier this year, and I started paying closer attention to this set because it's such a behemoth in that way. Like any of the parallels, all the rest of the parallels for Frank Thomas, no autograph. Just this is the autograph card. So a guy like me, I'm very patient. I'll just cherry pick. I'll do research on a card and see what's interesting, and I'll cherry pick something. And so post-career stuff, I'm so picky that like it has to spark my fancy. Now these cards aren't very pretty. This franchise feats card, when I first saw them, I was like, look like yearbook stuff. Look like backs of cards. Like the front looks like the back of a card. Like I've never really been a fan of the design of these cards. I remember passing them up at bargain bins at shows. Like I just didn't even care. When I came across the red, I started paying closer attention to the set, and then I realized the insertion ratios on these cards are just unbelievable. And so I started cherry picking the different parallels, and I got all the way up to just missing the platinum 1 of 1, which I don't ever expect to find because the insertion ratio is probably like 1 a gajillion, billion, trillion, million. Obviously not. That's like a huge extreme, but you get the idea. So I was really glad to get this. This is a great card to get. This is the 2019 Topps Franchise Feats Autographs, number 10. All right, moving on here. We're going to be talking about like a lot of mid-2000s stuff in this block because it's like I'm at the point now my collection that a lot of the stuff I still need is like miscellaneous random parallels from certain eras because I've kind of exhausted my limits on the 90s stuff. I mean, there are a few odds and ends here and there, but there's not much I need still left on that block of stuff. But anyway, this is 2005 Donruss Champions Impressions Green to 25. The only time I've ever seen this card. One of the like known Frank Thomas collector was liquidating a good block of his cards this year. And I kind of just paid attention to what he was selling and passed on a lot of stuff and grabbed this one and some others. But this one caught my eye because the only time I'd seen the green to 25. I have a bunch of the parallels in this run too. Like there's 5 or 6. There's a lot. But these are interesting cards. The parallel, well, obviously the like different color foil will have different print runs. There's like to 50, there's to 75 to 100. Just kind of goes up like that. And there's like a relic. There's a bunch of different ones. But this is cool. It's like not a very interesting card. I get that. It's 2005. Mid-2000 stuff is not terribly interesting. 2004 stuff's pretty cool. 2005 can be cool, just depending on the release. And this is kind of one of those like, kind of, I don't know, forgetful sort of runs from 05. But I like it. It's cool. I mean, it's got very excellent photography of Frank Thomas. This is the 2005 Donruss Champions Impressions Green to 25. All right, another card from 2005. This is the 2005 Donruss Press Proof Gold to 25. Now, this is the card, or an example of this same card, got me banned from the Frank Thomas Facebook group. Here's how it all went down. Okay, little backstory for you. I've been talking almost daily to one of the Frank Thomas guys on chat or through email for the past 12 years, like since pre-Radicards. He and I talk pretty frequently. Like we're pretty close. He lives kind of sort of near me-ish. I've never met him in person, but I've become pretty close with him. And he's the Frank Thomas guy who I've become most close with across all the main core Frank Thomas guys. And I feel like I know all of them a little bit, some more than others. But this one particular gentleman, he and I go back and forth frequently on just a carnival of different topics throughout life over the last 12 years. We talk cards. I buy from him. He buys my products. He's a really good dude, smart guy. I respect him a lot. That said, a collector on the Facebook group was running a sale of some stuff, and my buddy, will call him Eric. Okay, that's an alias. This card surfaced, and he said, "I'll take that." And then okay, admittedly, this was not a good decision on my part, but I don't think it necessitates a ban. Okay, fine. I admit where I'm wrong. I'm happy to take accountability for everything. Every time I screw up, that's fine with me. I'm happy to own it. All time, all day, forever. So let's say it was like $50. And then I was like, 60 question mark? And then that comment got me banned from the group because the guy who was, it wasn't, okay, here's the thing. One of the admins saw that as like me causing a problem for Eric, and so they banned me from the group. Like, I'm a Frank Thomas collector. Like, I have huge collection. It's over 7,600 unique at this point. Okay, you can see it on the museum. A guy like me shouldn't be banned from a group like that. Maybe they'll slap on their wrist, "Hey, Patrick, don't do that." I'm like, no problem. Like, whatever. But this is kind of like a reason why Facebook groups are a little odd to me, because they're not run like democracies. They're run like kind of like dictatorships. Like, they can just kick you out whenever they want based on some random whatever opinion. I don't appreciate that about Facebook groups. There's no way to get around that, though. That's just how they are. Fine. I just don't love that about them. But it was this card. It was one of the other to 25s of this card. So when I saw this, I was like, well, I have to get this card. Because I lost the one in the Facebook group. And this was back in 2021, like around like May-ish. And so I've been out of that group now for a while. Eric and I are still really good friends. I still talk to him. And it didn't matter to him. He was like, it's not necessary to ban him from the group. Like, he took my side. Whatever. I'm not going to hold this against anybody, even the admin. Like, I'm not going to build a grudge. Like, whatever. Like, he made a decision, and I have to live with it. It's not my finest hour to post 60 question mark, but it's also not egregious enough to necessitate a Facebook ban, but that's just my opinion. In any case, neither here nor there. Whatever's done is done, and I accept it. It is what it is. This is the 2005 Donruss Press Proof Gold to 25. Really glad to get this. He has a checklist version of this card. It looks identical picture. Just says checklist across the nameplate on the front. Different card number on the back. And so, like, he has the same run of cards in that block of cards too. So I have to chase 2 of everything. It's kind of exhausting. But this was one of them. Anyway, glad to get this finally. Oh gosh, this card. Crazy. 2003 Upper Deck Honor Roll Gold to 25. Really, really, really hard card to get. Now, again, Frank Thomas is featured twice in this set, so I have to chase 2 of these. I have to chase card 64 and his other card. And he's also got like another parallel of this card. There's like a silver, and then there's the base. So I have to chase 6 cards in the run. I'm still kind of a ways out, not too far, but still got a couple cards to get in the lot to finish off this run. I don't know when I'll ever do it, because these cards they've proven to just become rare. They're just hard to get, hard to find. 03, I didn't buy any honor roll packs back in 03. I didn't buy a lot of packs. I bought a lot of stuff in like Target, and I would just kind of open random, like, I think there was Playoff Prestige. I think I opened some Studio, Donruss Classic, stuff like that. Just whatever Target had. In any case, Frank Thomas is in the set twice, so I have to chase 6 cards across the different parallels in the base. And whatever, I'm glad I got this gold finally. This was a good one to get. This is 2003 Upper Deck Honor Roll Gold to 25. Okay, so this was one of the cards that was sold by the gentleman who was liquidating some of his collections, that Frank Thomas collector. I think his motive was he was focusing on like certain 90s era stuff, so he was letting a lot of like the post 90s stuff go. Or there was like a cutoff, and he was letting off everything after the cutoff. This surface, I was like, well, I have to get that because I've wanted this photographer proof for a while. This is the 2004 Skybox LE photographer proof to 25. It's the only one I've seen available to me. He's got a bunch of different parallels in this run. I like this set though. I think I like the die cuts. Very reminiscent of a 90s product. It reminds me of 95 SP die cuts. Those are really cool. I remember when that set came out. Man, 95 was such a fun year for collecting. But this set kind of reminds me of that set. Really glad to get this. Not really much to say about this, except for I've wanted this for photographer proof for a while, and I just hadn't had the opportunity until this gentleman listed this card. And I was really glad to get it. So there you have it. This is the 2004 Skybox LE photographer proof to 25. All right, moving on here. This is the 2004 Topps Pristine Fantasy Favorites Relics Refractor to 25. Only time I've ever seen this card at auction. And it had been on my checklist for all these years, right? And so I had the base card for a long, long time. It's like one of the earlier relic cards I owned, and hadn't seen the refractor until now. And so it's kind of a cool thing to get them side by side. This card scanned really well. I like the etching on the front. This was at a time when like Topps was still doing etching in their chrome cards. You don't really see that too much anymore. It's very, very plain and flat. That's fine. It's just I think the etching really makes the card pop a little bit better. And this card has those boxes on the front and just kind of like pops off the card like that with a refractor finish. I just noticed that 2 of the boxes have the baseball in there. That's really cool. I like that. It's really nice. So anyway, this is the 2004 Topps Pristine Fantasy Favorites Relics Refractor to 25. Love this. One gentleman who's kind of known in the hobby for having interesting things. I think he reached out to me, or I think I reached out to him because he had featured this on one of the Facebook groups, and I was like, "Hey, do you have by chance one of these available? I'd love to buy it because I still need the card." It's a 1994 finest sample. So I learned about this card some years back, and some of them surfaced, and then they all got gobbled up quickly, and I was kind of left in the dust. And I was like, crap, I need that card. There's like the Superstar Stampler, there's the base card, there's the refractor, and I'm like, I still need the sample. So this was just kind of eluded me a little bit. I was bummed out by it. I was like, man, I would really like to get that in the collection. This gentleman had one, and we negotiated for it, and he sold it to me. I was really happy to get that. Super nice guy. This was like kind of one of those cards that it's actually the only 90s card in the list this year. This one here, this made the list. This is the standalone 90s card in my 2022 top 10 Frank Thomas list. And really happy to finally put this in the archive this year. I just think that the backs on these cards are awesome. That plain black and white with that text. This is such a cool thing. This is a great card to get. I'm glad I got this 1994 finest sample. And if the seller is watching this, I appreciate it. Thank you again. All right, moving on. This is the 2000 Skybox Autographics purple foil, the unfulfilled replacement. There's no serial number on it, no hand-numbered serial number on the bottom right corner of the front of the card. If you're unaware, the serial numbering on these would normally be to 50. I have that variety too, but I got that variety quite a ways back in the background. I mean, maybe 10 years ago. Long time ago. I'd have to look at my record as when exactly I bought that, but I've had that one for a long time. When this one surfaced, this one was actually graded PSA, which is like authentic. It's a trading card at the top. But I wanted to scan in for the actual like raw, like the front and back archive. I do that when I get a card that I don't have in the raw archive, but it's only graded. I'll scan in the front and back and make this version of it that goes into the whatever annual block or whatever block it that goes into. So how this happened was this surfaced and I was like, well, I got to get that. And I paid kind of handsomely for it. And then another one surfaced like the week later by the same seller. I was like, ugh, because that second one sold like half the price. And so like, whatever, you don't know what you don't know. So I don't regret it. It's just what it is. But 2 of them were back to back and I was the winner on the first one. So I paid the premium because second one always closes for a little bit less. Usually, that's usually how it works. But because I didn't know there was another one, I bid aggressively on the first one and won it. But happy to have it. This is a great card, great image, awesome card. I love that purple hollow foil print too. It's just a good looking card, good looking dude. Glad to get this. This is the unfulfilled replacement for the 2000 Skybox Autographics purple foil. All right, moving on. Okay, so you might know that I've been chasing the 2014 Topps Tech Frank Thomas run since 2014. I had aggressively pursued this run like you would not believe. And I own everything I've seen except for one card, and I can't get the owner to budge on it. It's too bad. Hopefully, maybe someday. I'm hoping. I can have hopes anyway. Anyway, this is the 2014 Topps High-Tech Wave Printing Proof Magenta 1 of 1. I'm still missing one of the other ones from this line, but I have all of them autographed. I have all of that variety. But anyway, this is one of the last ones I need for the run, and I was so happy to see another one that I needed. I didn't really go after this stuff in 2015 or ever since because I pursued it so heavily in 2014. I think I just got it out of my system. I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm burned out. I can like break for a little while between acquisitions because they come up so infrequently. Because the whatever's remaining they're one of ones. Whatever's left that I need in 2014, they're just one of ones. But if you go on Radicards.com, if you're already on Radicards.com, just click in the search bar 2014 Tech. And I have a showcase in an article assigned to this topic that features the whole mess of these. And so you can see all the Frank Thomases all together. It's kind of a cool little thing. I worked hard on making that. That took some time. I made that some years back. But if you're interested, go check that out. You can see my progress. Really happy to get this. This is the number 2 spot. So we're getting down to it here. Really glad to get this. This is 2014 Topps High-Tech Wave Printing Proof Magenta 1 of 1. All right, the number 1 card on this list. This is a big one. I have a version of this card, but this is the pack issued version. You ready for this? Here we go. 2000 Upper Deck Legends Commemorative Collection Gold 1 of 1. Okay, so this is a card I own, the unfulfilled replacement of this version. So no serial number on the back. It's just this without the 1 of 1 stamp. I've had that one for a long time, like quite a few years. My buddy Eric linked me up and said, "Hey, I know a gentleman who's getting rid of some of his collection, and I know you have the unfulfilled replacement. Would you like to own this 1 of 1 example?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. What does he want for it?" He floated me numbers like, I don't really want to do that. It's reasonable because it's the 1 of 1. Obviously, if it's market, it's going to be competition. So I get to dodge that. So I respected that. I was like, well, can you do this figure? He's like, I can't do that, but I can do this. I was like, okay, well, can you do a payment plan? And so we worked a payment plan. After 3 months, I was able to pay it off, and I got this card. I was really happy to get it. And it sat on my desk in a box of stuff to be processed for the museum for 6 months, a long time. And so I finally got around to scanning in the block of the annual pickups for Frank Thomas, and this made it in, and of course because I needed to put it on the museum. So if you go to the museum and you go to the 2000 block, you can see this next to its buddy, the unfulfilled replacement. This is the number 1 spot because it's the obviously most expensive card this year. Across all the cards I bought, this is the most expensive one. Also the most important of the Frank Thomas cards I got this year because, the rarest. And so I was really glad to get this. I love these cards. 2000 Upper Deck, I think collector interest maybe started to pick up because the relic thing was really becoming a thing. And so this is when parallels and mega parallel sets were kind of starting to inch their way into the hobby. That came really brightly in the mid-2000s. But 2000 Upper Deck, there's a lot of interesting stuff in 2000 Upper Deck. And these gold parallels, these 1 of 1s are one of those sets. I was really glad to get this, and I was happy and thankful for my buddy Eric linking me into the seller on this, being the broker essentially. And my buddy Eric came up hugely. He bought a lot from that guy. Stuff I'll never see until he shows me. So I didn't get dibs. Fortunately, the first dibs came to him, and he was able to get it. And I'm happy that he was able to get those cards. There have been a few instances where I had an opportunity to get something, but the price point was too far to reach that I had to pass on it, and it went in the hands of somebody else. I have to accept when that happens. I try not to let those things happen because they're so rare, and I won't be able to replicate those things if they move off into somebody else's possession. So there are a few instances in the background where that has happened, and I'm doing everything I can to set myself up for success in those situations. But sometimes I just don't have it. It's just there's no way I can do it. There was another card in 2022 that was like that, over the summer, that I just didn't have the strength the army strength to get it done. It was too expensive. There's no way I could do it. I put in a healthy bid, but even at my healthy bid, I was thousands behind. But there are certain cards like that I can just keep a scan on the most wanted gallery, and that's that. Yeah, it's a ball game. I can't get them all. I accept that, but I try to do what I can to get as many as I can, and the ones I like anyway. So there you have it. This is the 2000 Upper Deck Legends Commemorative Collection Gold 1 of 1 Frank Thomas. All right, so thank you for listening to me ramble on and on in this video. I really appreciate the time you've spent watching. Let me know in the comments area which one of these cards hit you. Did you like one over another? Was there one that stood out to you more so than everything else? What were some of your favorites? I'd love to hear your comments, either in comments on the blog or the YouTube channel. I appreciate you watching. Thank you for tuning in to Radicards TV on Radicards.com. I'm your host, Patrick Reno. And until next time, enjoy collecting. If you like this content, please subscribe. Thanks. Enjoy collecting.